content is for informational and educational purposes only. You should not construe any such information or other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. Nothing contained here constitutes a solicitation, recommendation, endorsement, or offer to buy or sell any securities or other financial instruments whatsoever by Draper Gorin Blockchain, aka DGB, the presenter, or other associated parties for the content being provided. Please do your own due diligence and seek proper counsel.
Boom. Welcome. We got our fame lady giving our legal advice at the beginning. But hey, welcome. We're on episode number 23 since we restarted 23 weeks straight, which is pretty cool. We went over I think we were almost at 3 years when we stopped the Blockchain and Booze stream. So we're going to keep that tradition alive, not miss a week ever for any reason.
We missed last week.
But we did 2 the week before, and you know what? We did miss a week. That's true. We were at the Draper event. Shit, we need to start over. That's it. We need to start over. Hey, Anthony here from Skybridge. Everybody knows Anthony Scaramucci with your involvement in the crypto space and in the media and everything else. You've spoken at our events and hung with us in the past, but I am so stoked to have you here today. The crypto world is always ever changing and a crazy roller coaster. So really excited to have you here. Welcome.
Well, first off, thank you guys for having me, and thank you for having me at your events. I enjoy your events, and so I hope I get invited back.
You are always invited. Actually, I tried to. You had Salt last week. Actually, I was going to say something about Salt as well. I learned some interesting things the first few times I went to Salt. So I want to give you a little love on those events. But you had your last version of it last week, and I was trying to get you to come out here, and I didn't look at the calendars originally, and realized we had a conflict.
Yeah, but I mean, anytime. You tell me, I'll be there. And of course, I owe you guys a lot because Tim has been to my events. And if somebody said to me, how did I get into Bitcoin? A few apples landed on my head. There was a Tim Draper apple. There was a Michael Saylor apple, though I don't think that one landed on my head. I think it was shot out of a cannon. But the third one that was also very impactful for me were the Winklevosses. So that combination is what got me into Bitcoin. And I got there late, but I got there early in some respects.
So what's really, really crazy, and we just played the intro, and there's the alert on Twitter, right? So, and I go and I hit retweet, and I look down, and what's funny is this morning, Gemini gave back in kind all of the earn users, their $2.18 billion. I'm looking at my phone to get the exact numbers. You know, if I say it wrong anyway, go look it up, people. But the Gemini gave back the $2.18 billion of digital assets in kind. So if you had Bitcoin, you got back Bitcoin. If you had ETH, you got back ETH. That was lost in that hack, or not in the hack, but in the Genesis, when Genesis fell apart and everything. And what's funny is that I retweeted it this morning saying this is huge. And a minute ago, like while the intro was playing and I was looking at my phone, Cameron Winklevoss responded to the tweet, with an emoji, and I literally looked at that and I'm like, hey, it's not every day you're tweeting with the Winklevoss twins, and you have Anthony on a live stream. I've got like the New York, royalty right here, but these guys, it's killer, right? I mean, most people would not go and make that kind of crazy of a bet, right?
Yeah, well, I will say this, that those guys came to see me talk about Salt 2014, 10 years ago. You tell me where Bitcoin was at that time. I don't know, maybe $600, $700, $800 a coin. And they were explaining it to me. I found it interesting, but I said to them, listen, guys, I'm an institutional investor. It seems like a very small market. I really don't understand it. I personally can't buy it. And I think the institutions that I invest money for would be upset with me if I made it a part of our portfolio. But thank you for explaining it to me. Duh. And then fast forward 6 years later, I make a decision to buy it at $17,000, I guess up from $800 or $900 per coin. And what I said in 2014 2014 was actually true in 2020. Institutions I invest money for got very mad at me, and some of them left. And of course, the ones that didn't leave have been very well rewarded by our decision making. But that's life. I mean, if you're in a new industry and you're dredging a new canal or you're breaking ice somewhere, you're going to have a group of people that are old guard. There are many horse and carriage people that did not like the horseless carriage. And guys, I'm a lot older than you guys. I'm 60. So I hang out with 60-year-old white males. Most are grumpy and angry, and most of them like the old guard. They don't like the new things. And so
You're looking good, though. You're looking good for 60.
Oh, thank you. There's a lot of work being done here. Okay. I got more Botox in my forehead than the day Joan Rivers died. You know what I'm saying? So if I don't look like I'm being too emotional here, it's just because I can't really move.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah, I just want you to know.
That's,
I'm enjoying the conversation, even though my face isn't moving.
Hey, I'm on my way there. Oh man, I want to make so many jokes about that because my daughter has started making comments and she's only 9 years old. But what I was gonna say, okay, I want to go back to salt for 1 second because I think some really interesting things happened to me when I first went there, at least from the perspective of a tech entrepreneur, punk rocker kid who's very uninterested in pretty much all politicians, right? I remember seeing some videos from a previous SALT conference and going, oh, that's where, some politicians and the bankers and the big institutions hang out. And this is interesting to me as a fintechy nerd, but also I don't like politicians, and I remember about 2017, 2018, you started having some of my friends, some of the Cool Kids Club of Crypto were coming to the event to give some presentations and share things. And it was starting to be a thing. And I got invited to go and I was debating going, but, getting a free ticket from one of those guys, I thought I have to go and check this out for myself, see for myself. I can't be an asshole and judge these, certain people without showing up. And I remember Tim was speaking there. And at the time we were just about to do this deal with Tim where he was going to, where we had already kind of handshake agreement, but Tim had invested in a previous company of mine in 2012. And this was the first time, again, I was sort of pitching him something of mine. And he wanted to be a part of it and brand with the Draper name and work together again. I was very excited about it. I was like, Tim's speaking at the event. I'd like to get his perspective. I trust him. If he's there, then I think it's a great event. I'm going to go. And I remember seeing some politicians talking, going, interesting watching the way they speak to the bankers and institutions versus, maybe on CNN or on TV to the people. Very different people. And then Tim was coming on stage next. And I remember thinking, I wonder if Tim is going to speak differently to the bankers and institutions, right? Than he does in real life behind closed doors or in the rooms with the crypto nerds. And he was the exact same dude. And he was telling the bankers and institutions that the crypto industry in general is going to be putting them out of business if they don't join and participate. And I loved it. It made me fall in love with him even more. And there's only certain people you see there's only certain people you see up on stage in events like this that are the same person, even though they know those people that were pissed at you for allocating anything to Bitcoin at all, right?
Yeah.
Or the same people in the crowd who think he's a crazy nut job. And he just straight up told them what he truly believes. He didn't go up there going, ooh, I could raise a lot of money from these people and I'm going to tell them what they want to hear so that they invest in my fund. He told them exactly what he believed was the truth. And I loved SALT for that because it was easy to see who those people were and what they were. And, politicians are pretty transparent, right? So I had to let go of my feelings there because that's their job too.
Alon, if you don't mind me interrupting, it's such a fascinating observation because, again, I'm 60, 36 years in the business. I've met a lot of different people, attended a lot of different conferences, my own, but also, the Allen and Company, some Valley Conference. I've attended the World Economic Forum, et cetera, Milken. And what you're saying is true. But there's also something more to it. There's a cognoscente, or there's a group of self-perceived elites and it's almost like a match sailing race. And so they have to say the same things that the other person is saying in order for them to stay in the group or to stay in the club. And I've seen this in the investment banks. I've seen this in law firms. I've seen this in institutional investing. I'm not going to say anything offensive. I'm not going to say anything that breaks any ground. And the reason why Draper and I get along so well is that we're both groundbreakers, we're ball busters, and we're willing to say stuff that is truthful that sometimes really pisses off the other side, because they just don't want to hear it. And I'm going to leave you with a thought. And this is a little bit provocative and probably overly philosophical, but somebody asked me the other day who the most important the fiction literary character was in the history of Western literature. And I thought about it, and I answered Cassandra. Now, if you've got young kids, Cassandra is now a song by Taylor Swift. It just came out on her new album. Who is Cassandra, Alon? Do you remember who Cassandra was?
No. And now I feel like I should even know more because of Taylor Swift, but the new album is not so fresh yet for me.
Okay. Well, I'm a Swiftie.
Yeah.
I'm a self-confessed Swiftie, but Cassandra is Priam's daughter in the Iliad. And Homer is writing a story. And if you read the Iliad, obviously he didn't write it. He more or less sung it, and it got shared over generations. But the story is really a template for how people behave. It's 3,000 years old. But if you read the Iliad, right there, you've got your behavioral management lesson on how the world works. But Cassandra is a metaphor for us. So what happens to Cassandra? The goddesses bless Cassandra with the gift of clairvoyance and her ability to say the truth. But she's also cursed with the fact that many people will not believe her. Okay, and this is a metaphor for life. Aaron Sorkin, the screenwriter, reinvents her in the Jack Nicholson Colonel in the movie A Few Good Men. Remember, his great speech is, "You cannot handle the truth." Homer tells us that 3,000 years ago. And of course, Cassandra is the daughter of Priam, the king of Troy. And she goes to her father, says, "It's a really bad idea bringing Helen here. They're going to launch 1,000 ships upon us, and they're going to burn down our city." And she's mocked and laughed at. But what is Homer saying about Cassandra? And the reason why she's the most important literary character to me is that we actually cannot handle the truth. We live in a constant situation of denialism. We have to deny our own mortality. We have to deny certain things that are going on in our lives, okay, because we feel uncomfortable about them, or we try to sweep them under the rug. Yeah. And if you're in a business like the Yellow Pages, and Jerry Yang shows up with a contraption where you can type in something and you can get the pizzeria's name right off the screen, but you're selling 4-pound books to customers and advertisers, and you're chopping down 4 million trees and delivering them to their people for 96 years, you don't want to hear the truth about the future. You don't want to hear the truth about where the world is going. And I think that for those of us like the Jim Drapers of the world that can handle the truth, this is a breakthrough. This is where human beings innovate. This is where human beings, frankly, accept their own mortality. And so maybe they take themselves a little bit less seriously, and they relax a little bit into life as opposed to trying to overly control it. And so I just point this out because we're at a cusp of another major revolution. We have an AI revolution coming. We have a biotech revolution coming. We have a cryptocurrency and blockchain tokenization revolution coming. And if you're aware of it and willing to accept it, you're going to be doing great. If you're not, and you're part of the world where the Cassandras of the world that are telling you the truth and you can't accept the truth, you're going to get hurt and you're going to get left behind.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's in any new startup category, in any new kind of innovative category, or any revolutionary person is usually the fastest to adopt the change or see the truth or be willing to know and embrace the fact that everything changes, right? And the people who push against that are usually the people left behind, or the people most incentivized for things to not change, but it's inevitable. You know, I remember my day jobs before I started my own company. My last 2 day jobs were MySpace and then IMDb, which is owned by Amazon. And I remember actually being at Amazon when they discussed some research that they did that led to AWS, right? And they showed that a millisecond of load time equaled revenue to them. Literally 1 millisecond of load time created a better user experience, more people shopping bought the thing they were looking for, right? And they needed to create a better product. And the reason I bring that up is it doesn't sound like some big sea change thing, but they understood buying things online before anyone else did. They understood how a user experience and that changes everything. And every little change they've done since then, people have gone, oh, that's never going to happen. People are going to buy, you know, okay, fine. They buy books on the internet, but they're not going to buy groceries. You know, oh, they're not going to watch movies. They're not going to do this. They're not going to get deliveries from drones or from driverless cars or allow people to go into their house to put food in the fridge. All these things happen significantly faster. So every time there is a change now, because of technology, it went from me being a 17-year-old buying parts for my car on eBay because I wanted to fix my car and only some dude on the other side of the country had it and PayPal didn't exist. I had to go to the post office to buy a money order to send to this dude who didn't send me the parts, right? Then PayPal existed. But I was a crazy person buying something on the internet 30 years ago. Now it's the norm, right? And you know, it's every cycle is happening faster and faster and faster. And I think there's like, you know, not understanding that you're going to be replaced or moved is
and to that, so Anthony, I came from the real estate and construction industry originally, right? And I started getting heavily in the DeFi space and the crypto space. And, you know, I started seeing payments. Now you can see Elizabeth Warren complaining about blockchain, but I have to imagine that a government where if you have every transaction on chain being traded with, you know, stable coins on chain, and every transaction is recorded, the tax revenue that'll generate. And coming from the construction industry, what was fascinating, and I think you had some family that was in that industry, there's a lot of cash payments under the table in the construction industry. And as a general contractor, I would constantly get beat out by projects that I know that people are doing cash deals under the table and undercutting values, you know, using stolen goods, whatever it is, if all of that is recorded on a blockchain, that type of stuff gets eliminated. And so I could see a world that we could go into where we were no longer doing dollar payments, but everything was stable coins and everything was transacted and recorded on chain. And the revenues that would generate from taxes versus the taxes that they lose on cash payments would be huge. And so jumping in this space, it's kind of fearful because I see the good, but I also see the bad because it means that all of your records are potentially out there too.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I mean, you know, what you guys are, it's the reason why you're doing what you're doing. You know, you're at the front end of the spear and you're driving things. But I want to reinforce something though that you're both saying, and I want to talk about adaptation in life. And so 2 things that I got way wrong. Okay. Thing number 1, we were presented Uber. And one of the Uber executives showed up. It was a $50 million valuation. I had the chance to put $150,000 into the company. It was a ride-sharing software at the time. And I looked at the guy and said, okay, let me just understand something. My daughter is going to get in an unknown black car with an unknown driver, and you guys are going to drive her around the 5 boroughs of New York. And they said, yes. I said, okay, get out of my office. Okay, so $150,000 probably worth, I don't know, $50 to $100 million. Got it wrong, missed it. Okay, old school thinking. I was at the Sun Valley conference in the year 1999. Jeff Bezos made a presentation, and he was trying to explain to the people in the room, many of them were institutional investors, that you're not valuing my company appropriately. You're saying that I'm an expensive internet bookseller. I'm not really a bookseller. These books, I'm putting these books out there because they're easy to ship. They're roughly the same size and weight. And I'm dot plotting the United States. I'm reverse engineering the warehouse footprint, and I'm going to sell everything. Now, I'm not going to make any money for the next 10 years, but I'm going to build this infrastructure so that when I turn the profit switch on, I'm going to mint money, and I'm going to control a large swath of retail in the United States. And so he was done with his presentation. I said, okay, I'm going to go buy the stock. The next guy to speak was a guy named Warren Buffett. I don't know if you've heard of that guy. Okay.
Yeah,
So he got up there. He was 70 years old, and he was somebody I looked up to as a role model. He said, well, that's a really nice, colorful speech from this nice young man, Jeff Bezos, and really, really nice. But just to let you know, I'm not buying any of that stock. Do you know that this Amazon.com, this internet bookseller, is worth more than Sears Roebuck? And just look at all of the offices, the buildings, everything that Sears Roebuck had. How could that even be possible? Moreover, he just got done telling you he's not going to make any money for 10 years. Okay, so Jeff went on to shoot himself into outer space in his own rocket. Okay.
Both figuratively and literally.
Literally, yeah, exactly. and then he took Captain Kirk on another mission. Okay, so, and by the way, I have legions of other investment mistakes that I've made or opportunities I've missed, but those types of things help me not miss Bitcoin, because I looked at those things. I said, okay, this is another one of those things. It's changing the world. I honestly don't see it. The Winklevosses saw it before me. But you know what? I'm starting to see it. Draper actually helped me with it, frankly. And I guess what I would say to the people listening to your show, break out of your fear base, break out of your self-consciousness of looking stupid, and take a leap forward into the future. Look at something that's happening right now. You know, Skybridge made a decision to buy Astera Labs in the non-IPO, the private market. My team wanted to do it. I didn't really understand it, but I said, you know what? Go ahead, do it. Okay, thank God we did that. And I think we have to embrace the future, no matter what age we are, or no matter how we've made our success thus far.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. Or go Rankin.
No, I was going to say Warren and his old friend counterpart Charlie Munger used to call it Bitcoin, rat poison. And I always joke because I said that he was the rat, because if you look at BRKA, right, it's never done a dividend. It doesn't pass out a dividend. It's never done a split, and it goes up just like Bitcoin, right? And until they pay a dividend, it's not any different than Bitcoin, because obviously Bitcoin doesn't have a dividend. And people could argue, be like, well, wait, there's all these companies behind Berkshire Hathaway, and that's true, but you don't see a dividend. There's all these miners behind Bitcoin too. There's no dividend paid out. And so until he starts paying a dividend, I consider Berkshire Hathaway not that far different from Bitcoin. And I think that might expose him.
Listen, I think he would be a Bitcoin holder if he really sat down to understand it. I find that people that study it, they go towards Bitcoin. Larry Fink.
He's too old. It won't do any good for him right now. I mean, the funny thing is, I admire him because he owns bank stocks. And that was one of the funny things, is I own bank stocks too. And I had called the CEO of a bank, and I asked him, so what did you think about Bitcoin? And he's all, why would I care about Bitcoin? And that was my indicator that it was still early and it's still a good time to buy.
Amen. Amen. But just think of it this way, okay? Smart people change their minds.
Sure.
And smart people, the more work they do or facts change, they change. Yeah. Larry Fink, negative on Bitcoin. Larry Fink saying negative things about Bitcoin. And then Larry Fink all of a sudden realized, wait a minute, I've got this wrong, and I'm going to go in the direction of Bitcoin. Stan Druckenmiller, Paul Tudor Jones.
I'm
going to tell this story. Stan will probably be mad at me. I was in the Rosewood in Sand Hill Road, right? I don't know where your guys' offices is, but I was there for a meeting. I was sitting at breakfast, and Druck walked in, and I was like, okay, here is a legendary macro investor. Here is a legendary traditional investor. What is Mr. Druckenmiller doing in the Rosewood Hotel off of Sand Hill Road in Silicon Valley? And the answer is learning about the future. Okay. Now here's a multi-billionaire, extremely generous guy, warm guy, but he's there learning about the future. Okay. Wake up, learn about the future. Awesome. Okay. Get yourself out of whatever box you're in, break out of the box and do the things that you need to do to understand AI, biotech. You pick the genre, psychedelics, whatever it might be, whatever's going to be part of your future in 2029? Learn about it today.
So this is something I used to say a lot when we first were doing live streams and things like that years ago, but we should say it again, especially if there's new people watching and things like that. And then I'm going to show something funny that I realize I still have here from our deck that I want to show people. I used to say to people, look, you don't have to believe in Dogecoin or any of the silly things, Bored Apes or whatever thing of the day is being created or done on chain and this crazy blockchain world. You can think it's silly and weird, but this is the evolution of the internet. It's inevitable. Come participate. Don't have to spend a lot of money. You could just show up and learn. And the blockchain space has done a great job of rewarding people who come early, and we're still early. And so come and learn, and you'll probably be rewarded. But even if not, the one thing you'll have for you is that a few years from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you'll probably be in the front of the line for that job you're looking for or for that thing you want to do, because you'll be up against people who are not familiar with it.
100%.
And you will be. And then this goes to a funny slide that I actually took out of our deck because it was confusing to people when I wasn't there to explain it, and I could probably do a better job. But this is a funny thing I wanted to throw up on the screen really quick. I used to have in one of our presentations, no one starts an internet company anymore, right? And that seems insane, right? And then the next slide would say every company is an internet company now, right? That's where we are with the blockchain space, especially when you start thinking about what Anthony just said about the AI revolution being here. The biotech revolution being here. Those two things are great examples of things that without verification and proof could completely go upside down, right? If I can make a video with Anthony's look and likeness and just the recording we have today, I can make a video of him, send it to Rankin tomorrow and be like, yo, it's Anthony. I need help with something. I'm going to send you a DocuSign right now. Can you hit it? And David goes, oh, yeah, that's Anthony. I've talked to him yesterday. Sounds good. And he could sign it, right? Without knowing it was actually him.
Amazing.
Remember, I shared a video with everybody a few weeks ago of me speaking like 5 different languages. And I made that video utilizing an AI tool, but I trained it with a public video that I had posted on LinkedIn. So I didn't actually train the thing. I took a 2-minute video from LinkedIn. I put it there, I sent it to my mom, and my mom responded saying, how did you learn to speak Arabic? And I was like, well, I just told you that it's AI, and she didn't get it. It was my mom, right? That's the crazy thing, right? So it's inevitable, right? We're going to need it to trust the banks and records and things like that, but we're going to need it for all sorts of other things we don't even realize yet.
You see, I mean, it's so well said. And you mentioned Salt, so I'll just bring this up.
Yeah.
I brought a deep fake guy to Salt to explain to people how everybody is. I'm sorry about that guy. I don't know. I thought I had it on Do Not Disturb. I had a, let me just put this on Do Not Disturb. I'm sorry. But I had a guy there, deep fake guy. And he had a thing of me saying and doing things that I would not say. It looked so real. The intonation was so perfect. And he said, okay, so imagine, you're talking about getting hacked on a phone. Imagine somebody sending a wire transmission to my bank and then having a digitizer of my voice to verify my voice, and the voice print comes out identical. How does the bank protect himself? How do you protect yourself? And that's coming. That's part of our future, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
That is part of our future.
I think that most mainstream people, parents at my kids' school or friends from childhood and whatever I talk to, think, oh yeah, of course, there's going to be Trump videos and Biden videos and stuff. And I go, no, there's going to be you calling your mom, asking her to wire you money.
Yeah.
And they go, what do you mean? I was like, have you ever been on a Zoom call for more than 5 minutes? That's it. That's all it takes. One recorded phone call or one YouTube video or one TikTok video is enough to train it on your voice, on your look. And,
Very scary.
It is scary because it's happening to everyone on so, but I think that there will be opportunities, right, to fix this. And
this is where I go back.
If you see a video of me endorsing Draper Gore and blockchain, it is me. I just want to make sure you get that. It's not a deep fake. That's me praising you guys.
Hey, I appreciate it. I think, I have a bunch of subjects, so we just started going down the rabbit hole, but this is super fun. I do want to hit a little bit of, we it would be a little, actually, before we go into asking a few random politics questions and things, and I think that'll be a fun thing to talk about because it's very tied close to crypto. I do want to ask you, you've been early on a lot of things like Bitcoin. I know you've done a lot with I'm brain farting, the foundation, Algorand.
Yep.
So I know you've been early in not just adopting the space as an asset class, but also in seeding foundations or new products in the space.
Yeah. No,
How much of your time? Yeah.
Parcel, the real world asset token Parcel, which is a Solana-based token, allows you to buy and sell macro real estate around the country. They're also scaling now and creating real estate indexes for Dubai and Abu Dhabi. But
That's
I'm sorry,
something.
how
Yeah,
much
that's something one of our companies might be able to tie with, actually. So I'm going to send you a note on that.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, so that's a company that I know the guys there and respect. But I could be wrong. I've been humbled by life. I've been humbled by markets. I'm not sitting here speaking with any great certainty. But let's just use Larry Fink's words. The world is going to tokenize. And a result of which, where is it going to tokenize? It's going to tokenize on the blockchain. And there will be layer 1s and layer 2s, and there'll be embedded contracts on these platforms, and there'll be information superhighways that are encrypted in a way that will allow us to be safe. And I'll just suggest this to you guys. It's very simplistic, but just imagine if we can take third parties out of our transactions. Imagine that we can not have to get a credit card company involved, or if I'm going to buy your house, our two corresponding banks involved. There are $4 trillion US dollars expended in financial services for verification. 7 trillion in total for all of financial services, GDP wise, but 4 of it is on transactions, and 4 of it is making sure that we're okay. Now, you really want to upset a banking executive. What is a bank? A bank is a database, guys. A very large database. It's got your numbers in your account. It's got my numbers in my account. And if I want to buy a Mercedes-Benz, I can wire some numbers from my account over to the Mercedes-Benz dealer, and then they'll show up with a G-Wagon or something like that. But what is it really? Okay, it is just a spreadsheet. It is a database. So when you stop and think about it, if you can have this fully verifiable, openly transparent, decentralized database that can empower the rest of us, because it is effectively trustless, because we're relying on hundreds of thousands of people to verify the transactions, opposed to one central authority, right? This fully distributed, fully decentralized database, there has to be huge value in that. And again, if you tell me Bitcoin's worth $1.4 trillion, I'll say, okay, but what is the value of being able to transact without a third party? What is that value? I don't know. That value is enormous.
We were at a digital asset conference, and one of the things that they asked is what's going to bring financial institutions and where's the interest in this space, right? And one of the things that I find fascinating is that you can create these, liquidity pools, right? So there's liquidity pools between ETH and Bitcoin, and you can have, you can specify the range, the high and the low, and you can actually collect trading fees within a concentrated liquidity pool. And I was talking to one of these guy that was in charge of merger acquisition. I'm like, I totally see the ability to sell a financial asset that pays you ETH and Bitcoin, or let's say you tokenize Tesla stock, right? Tesla doesn't pay a dividend, but let's say you want to make money off of your Tesla stock, so you build a concentrated liquidity pool between Tesla and USDC, and now by the trading volume of that Tesla stock, you're collecting a fee in both Tesla and dollars. I mean, why would you not want a financial instrument like that? To me, that's huge.
Well, that's owning an exchange, owning a bank, right? You're
Well, yeah,
becoming
You're owning liquidity.
you're sharing it. Well, I mean, but look at the tokenomics on Ethereum or Solana, and you're preaching to the choir on this stuff. But it took me. I guess what I'm going to say is that it took me a long time because of self-consciousness, fear of failure, fear of being overly scrutinized by investors. It took me a long time to put down the traditional sword and take up the lantern or take up the beacon of innovation because it's scary.
Well, it's like working out in Blockbuster, right? You don't want to let people know that, hey, I'm going to lose my job in a couple of months because of the fact that Redbox is going to take my job. You know, and that's
well, no, it's more
example of it,
startups.
Example of it.
Yeah, if you're around long enough, most of the pitches you get and a lot of the investments, maybe not a majority if you're good, but even the good ones, a majority of the investments fail, right? So you have to get over this idea of like Tim likes to say, right? He likes to go, stop thinking about what happens if this can go wrong. A million things could go wrong.
Right.
If you think what can go wrong, every deal sucks.
Yeah.
Right. I'm paraphrasing. Tim probably wouldn't say it like that, but if
No,
you
he
think
would. He
about
would say it.
what can go right,
Don't be
right?
nice to Draper. He would say it like
that. If you look at a deal or an opportunity, you meet an entrepreneur and you're like, wow, this is a crazy long shot, but what if this works? What if this goes right? You're looking at something that, is crazy, right? Like the Uber example is one that I always joke because I actually have pictures from the first Boost demo days. So Adam Draper was doing Bitcoin and blockchain stuff really early. The first demo day, I took a picture of him on stage at doing his demo day of his companies, and he was wearing a suit. And I joked that that's the last time I saw him wear a suit. But on the same day in my Google Photos, I have a screenshot of my rental car from the SFO airport or whatever, and I looked at that not that long ago and went, why did I rent a car for a day trip to San Francisco? Why didn't I just Uber it around? And I was like, oh, that was pre-Uber, right? Like or it wasn't, maybe not pre-Uber, but before anyone was using it. But you look at Uber, you look at the deck that they were trying to sell you on that 150K investment, their whole addressable market in that deck is smaller than the value of Uber today because they didn't create an efficient thing, which they really did. But what ultimately happened was they created a whole new market, a whole new place. So now we look at what Anthony was just saying about the trillions of dollars that are traded. Now take any stock being digitized. When I sold my first investment deal that I ever did, we used an app on your phone, I think it was at the time. Maybe it wasn't on the phone, but just on the computer called Sign Now. So people signed it digitally. If you would have asked me at the time, are these securities digital? I would have said yes. In my mindset today, they were not. They were just still the same dumb paper, right? But it was signed digitally, at least. But if you look at that space, just that category, which is the alternative investment market for the United States alone, last time I saw it, it was something like $7 trillion. All that stuff is going to become digital in some way, right? Do you think it's on chain? Do you think it's on Algorand, or do you think it's on Ethereum? Do you think it's on JP Morgan chain? That doesn't matter. There's $7 trillion. That's just one asset class. You don't even touch real estate and all sorts of other things, right? Yeah. And it's such a huge opportunity. It's absolutely bonkers. So where I was getting at with my question before is, you are doing the innovation stuff now, obviously. You are getting earlier. How early, there's a selfish question for us because we're crazy early, but how early do you participate in companies? Have you done, angel seed kind of investments super early, or are you a little later?
Well, I mean, yes, I've done super early investing. I've a lot of flame outs. Obviously, when you do super early investing, I've also done late stage investing. Our firm has a product where we raise money and we go into the marketplace and we ask the VCs or the employees at companies to shake off some loose holders, or maybe there's a family transition going on where someone needs to sell some private shares of a company. And so in my last private equity portfolio like that, we built a portfolio of SpaceX and Klarna and Liquid Death, and we put some fanatics into the portfolio. So it's not just tech; it could be financial services or great branding like Liquid Death.
Yeah.
We owned Aster Labs, and that would be an example of it. And so for me, I have a barbell approach when it comes to this stuff. I have been very early, and I've also had what I would say pre-IPO, or very late, if you will, in the life cycle of a private company on its way to potentially becoming public. And I've also done very boring things. Okay, I bought into a company in New London, Connecticut. These were two young guys that it was a solutions company. It was making contact lens solutions, but also these other types of cleaning solvents. But they were actually controlling the market in the sense that most of the labels that you see out there, could have a different branding, but it's all being produced at the same factory, facility. And these are a very boring company, lots of cash flow. These kids bought it. They were former Carlisle guys. They dressed it up. And then in about 4 years, they went 10-1 on the money. And so, I'm not, I guess maybe I'm too intellectually curious to stick into one genre. So I just made an investment in a company that has autistic training centers. And so, if your kid unfortunately has autism or is on the spectrum, you can go to one of their training centers and they help you develop the kid, and they help you, have the kid embrace certain elements of what goes on in society that he or she may not be picking up. And these centers are skyrocketing. It's a boring services business, but it's a great business. I also have same guys have a memory business where they're working with people on Alzheimer's on the other side of the spectrum. And so my point is that, yeah, I'm open. If it's a good idea, I'm willing to invest. I probably shouldn't say this live on your show, but I also lose money like a gentleman. So I've been smoked in a lot of investments. I've ridden the vomit comet down to zero in a lot of investments. And my attitude is c'est la vie. That's what happens right now. You could be totally cynical and say, well, just put all that money in Berkshire Hathaway, put all that money in the S&P 500, you'll do just fine. But then where's the fun in that, guys?
Yeah. Well, that's I've had that conversation a lot. I sat
on the food chain with you guys. I want to find the different things that are working.
So we sat at the table at the Draper event with an OG Bitcoiner, early guy that I've known now for many, many, many years. We sat at the table together, and he looked at me. He's like, should you have just bought Bitcoin a few years ago when you started Draper Goren?
100%.
And well, I mean, yes, probably if I thought about it that way, but I do have personally my Bitcoin, but this is a separate thing. And I have no choice but to do this, right? You meet entrepreneurs all the time, and there's ones that are doing it for the money, and you kind of see through it, and they're not very actually passionate about it, and it's not exciting. And then there's people who are there because they absolutely have no other choice, right? And I think we're diehards in that respect, and it's one of the reasons why we're so into it. But I do want to touch on what you said about boring companies, because one of the things I've learned over the years is, because crypto is this new place, money's falling from the sky, people are coming from everywhere, and all this, chaos and craziness, you tend to, everyone flocks to the shiny objects in these things. And what's funny is that you can have the greatest idea in the world, right? Talk about all the companies who are tokenizing real world assets. RWAs are the buzzword today, but they were doing it in 2017 and 18. And the first thing they would have to do is then go to the banks, the real estate brokers or institutions, the different people who have those assets, and convince them to utilize this new technology that they're afraid of. And what I learned over time is, one, going through these markets, those boring companies, the ones that are just doing something that exists, but making it slightly more efficient, or bringing it on chain, or using AI, or doing whatever to make it easier, might sound super boring to the average crypto investor, to the average, person, but they generate revenue. they have this. I like to say, and I stole this from someone on Twitter. I think they have a legacy Web 2 feature called Revenue, and they actually, when the time comes to bring things on chain, they don't now have to convince the dinosaur to change. They flip it internally, and they can now show the dinosaurs, yeah, hey, adopt this, or we're gonna take over, right? We're gonna do it. So we have a few super boring companies, but we also look at that like a barbell. We got super DeFi, insane moonshots, and then TradFi that's using the technology to streamline, right?
Makes sense to me.
I think we're at a unique time in history, though, because we are about to see a regime change, right? We got people in like real estate industries who are aging out of the business and retiring. And we got new young people coming in who want to see technology and see innovation. And so I think over the next decade or two, or a few decades, we're going to see that turnover, and we're going to see an acceleration, I think, in the, in general, the velocity of money moving around faster because of technology driving transactions going faster and everything. And I think it's going to be an amazing time period.
Well, I want to be there with you guys. We
love it.
We're there. So
I want to take all those antioxidants because I'm a lot older than you dudes. I want to live long enough to see all this.
Not that much older. We're like
always a seat at the table for you.
I brought Rankin into the mix so I wouldn't feel like the oldest dude in the crypto room most of the time. But
Rankin doesn't.
You're only a few years.
Rankin doesn't look crinkly.
No, we're all. We're pretty much all. I'm the youngest of three brothers, and we have space in between, so we're all in the mix here anyway. But what I was gonna say before, I want to be mindful of time. I know Anthony has a busy schedule. I know we all do. One quick thing, I'm gonna throw out a little plug, but I want Anthony to give a plug. I forgot to bring it up at the top of the thing, so I appreciate anyone who's listening all the way to the end. DGB, Draper Gorin Blockchain, we invest in early stage blockchain startups. We want to be the first check in your bank account, right? So if you are two people with an idea, if you're going to start pitch to other VCs and places and they tell you you're too early, or you haven't, or you're too early, that's our sweet spot. A lot of our friends who run funds, they introduce us to smart entrepreneurs before they can fit into their structure. So go to dgb.vc if you're interested in pitching us, if you're interested in learning more about that stuff. Go, once you fill out the form and shoot me a note, we'll end up hanging out. You'll start getting the alerts for our events and stuff too. And let us know, what you're working on. We want to know, we want to learn, we want you to tell us what we don't know. So please pitch us, tell us what you're working on. Anthony, I know you do Skybridge, you do the SALT conference, you do a lot of things. What's the number one thing you want to let everyone know today, and where to follow you?
Well, look, I'm on X at Scaramucci. I'm also on Instagram at Scaramucci. But I guess what I would say is I've got two fun podcasts that I do. One is called Open Book, where I interview authors, which is a lot of fun for me because I'm a big book reader. And the second podcast, which is really thankfully taken off, is with Katty Kay. She's a 25-year veteran at the BBC. She's an amazing journalist. And we do a show called The Rest in Politics US. And this is an offshoot of Rest in Politics UK. And so it's really taken off. There's a group called Goalhanger in the UK. It's a great podcast company. And Katty and I are having a good time. And it's a election special. So we go over what happened this week in the presidential election and politics in general. You can find those wherever you listen to your podcast.
Awesome. And yeah, we didn't even hit the politics stuff, which I had a couple of fun things, but we'll do it next time.
Right, we'll do it next time. But you can find my political views everywhere. I'm pretty open about them, and it cost me some business here and there, but that's okay.
It's all right. I mean, I think we're in crypto.
I want to be on record. Very important for me because I've got 5 kids that I can't tell you I'm influencing anything about our elections, but I got to be on record for what I saw and what I see and what the danger is. And so, people are mad at me for that, but I don't care.
I love it. I mean, I'm in the crypto space because I love that transparency. I joke, we talked for a second before we went live that I was raised by Israelis. So what I will say, most of the time, if you're raised by Israelis, you argue with the people you agree with most, right? And but I do also believe you can disagree with people, and then you get up at the end of dinner, you give them a hug and a kiss, and you say, "I'll see you next week. I love you," right? But I
sounds like an Italian.
there's not much difference. I married an Italian girl.
I fight all the time with the people I love. What's the sense of not fighting? I mean, although my wife has a great line because I fight with Trump all the time. She's like, when this election's over, you better not be turning that fight on me. You're
gonna have to find a new outlet. You know what? With politics, there's a never-ending flow of reasons to be pissed off. At least from my opinion, and hypocrites to argue with. So I appreciate your time. Thank you again so much,
guys. See you guys soon.
Yeah, we'll see you soon. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll see you
Alon,
next
let's follow up on Parcel though. Okay, I want to talk to you about that. It's a great little token.